snapshot of that system. So when you start seeing stuff, I say, hey, I get sensitive data. You just told me where your most sensitive data is, right? That if you start seeing these things mounted, when you start seeing, because unfortunately they're proud of them. I'd be able to tell you you're referring to an IBM system. Yeah. And there's some hacker going out there, gee, I started with AS400s. Nothing against me, I got this. And whether or not his neighbor next door doesn't matter, because they get on the dark net and exchange this information for fees. And I've been on sites, I can take you to a Parks Bay, we talk about all this stuff. But this stuff is out there, this is fun. So, this is where you get into attack surface. When you start these structured things that are overarching, holistic things that are, I solved the whole problem for the universe. Regardless of how good they may be, some are very good. I'm not disparaging the fact that a lot of very intelligent people, very schooled people, have been attacking this problem, but they're attacking the wrong problem. And I think the symptomology of what's happening in the thing it demonstrates that very clearly. If they defense one area, if I want something bad enough to defense one area, I go to the area they haven't yet defensed. And I can find it. This is more world. So, for us, the solution to all this is several things. Divorce the security, make the security an abstracted thing that has certain finite commonalities that can be attached to other things. Think of it as a padlock. That you become familiar with, you can set your own code to it, but you can attach it to anything. Unlike your car key, right, which is attached to your car, and once they hack it forever. But this is something you carry around, and of course it's virtual, so you can replicate it for free at will. You attach to anything, and it tells, essentially in a passive form, what the criteria are. What you, as the owner of this IP, want the person, that his environment or her environment to be like. And that environment includes things like who's logged on to the computer, or not who's logged on to the computer in an inventory sense. Everything we do is passive. We simply ask the operating system who's currently logged on to the system, and we don't need to know the password, we just say, is such and such in their name, or whatever the criteria would be, right? We ask, where's your GPS location if you have GPS? What is your MAC address? What is your IPv6, IPv4? What can you see on your camera if you want to go that far? What were the last things entered on the keyboard just before this? Because one of the things you can do is you can say, hey, enter your mother's maiden name in this thing. 10 minutes ago, I can ask you that. Then I can look and see if 10 minutes ago, if you entered that, there's all kinds of, and it asks you to go to a website. And is there a certain code there at the website I just told you to go to, which tells me, that gives me third-party remote control. So all these things I can see from your environment, because these type of machines are incredibly powerful. Cameras, fingerprint, everything. So I said, let's use this. Let's build a set of criteria that from any device, any intelligent device, that we can efficiently analyze periodically and say, when I go to access, and this is the key, we do point of access. Everything in our world is fail-safe. Every digital asset is enciphered, multiple level enciphering. And we have, we use traditional enciphering, but we also have our own patent enciphering, where we do some things that traditional enciphering cannot do. But leaving that aside for the moment, everything in our world is fail-safe. Nothing exists on a server anywhere exposed to any human being that isn't enciphered. The reason we can do that is that we deal in points of access. We have what we call leases. You ask for access to a digital asset, we know from your environment and from the criteria expressed in the amulet what the owner has said you must be or what conditions you must satisfy. And based on that, we look at that and we say, at this moment in time, this precise moment, do you satisfy those criteria? And if so, we will grant you a lease for 2 minutes. We may renew it, we may extend it, but we're going to say for 2 minutes. Set it both right away. For 2 minutes, and we're not going to expose it to you directly. What we're going to do is we're going to put on a VM, RAM drive, what we call code cocoon. We're going to put in your environment a secure area you can't get access to, and we're going to stream it out to the application you designated as having this permission to meet these criteria. If we don't like anything at any point in time, we're going to stop the stream. We're going to record activity that's on the behavior as far as anything that's being stored as we're writing, because we can look at the events. So basically the idea is that everybody gets views. You want to look at a movie, you're looking at a series of consecutive views you're authorized to see that are tested every so often, and you get a view that's suitable. If you're under the age of 17, the view you see will be a little bit different than the view a person over here will see. Because individual snippets of this movie, right, individual frames, seconds of frames, are controlled by whether or not it meets the test's criteria. So, and so of course you can apply the same criteria, the same all the movie, you can do, there's a lot of flexibility and stuff.
So is implied in this that I have to use your software to do any viewing of the content?
That is absolutely correct. You will have on your device a framework.
So how can I do editing? So there's an arbitrary file that it's a file format that it's an MP3 Pro format, and I decide I want to do it in Final Cut or something like that. What do I gotta do? I have to export it out of Final Cut?
If you were given the original, if you're looking at a source file, say, and the owner of that file said you had the right to edit it, what will happen is you will bring a copy in that domain, you'll be fed through the AMUmail will give you that copy, all right, and you'll be given permission to get a full statement. At that point in time, you will take ownership.
What?
At that time, you will take ownership. You will become the responsible party. You will be the content provider. So you will have your own amulet or whatever if you choose to secure it. You can choose not to secure it from that point on. Because the original author said, we're all about chain of custody. If you had permission from the original author to look at the thing, he said, hey, you can edit this thing, you can edit it.
So at some point, before we get to the end of this,
Yeah,
how you differ from some of the other DRM schemes? Because it sounds like
It's not DRM.
What's that?
It's not DRM.
Well, it is at a certain level, in the sense if you loosen up the definition of DRM to say protect content protection of digital assets, which sounds like what you're doing.
No, DRM is centralized management.
No, it's not actually. That's one implementation of DRM. There are other
It's the most
implementations.
popular
Huh?
implementation out there.
So I'm aware of other ones that aren't centralized.
I do.
So maybe if you're familiar with those competitors, I can give you some specifics.
Yeah, we're familiar with the space, but I'm not.
Yeah, I know. So I would like to hear that comparison
Okay.
at some point.
Yeah, and we do avoid that, but not for the reasons you think. One of the problems we have is we're trying to get people to understand what it is we have, right? So you start talking in terms of DRM, you start letting them stick, and I'm not, for our purposes, we'll have that conversation. We start studying, DRM is very impossible. Again, I don't want to, okay. DRM does not solve the problem, would you agree with that?
I tend to agree with that, but that's for different reasons.
Well, and because there is a constituency that's satisfied with DRM. It is the large-scale houses, right? The Sonys, the CBS, whatever music, because it satisfies their need. But for the individual artist, there's a reason Taylor Swift's out there.
Well, let's separate out the policy aspects of DRM, which are, I think, what's kind of doing, versus how does the core mechanism actually protect the content?
Right.
Because the centralized part of DRM comes from the policy, all the policy management. You actually call phone and somebody gets paid. But there's a part of DRM that says, what's the part that's running on this guy that protects it? And here your attack is different than most other crypto problems in that your attacker is actually the consumer of the content. And so you'll presumably in your slide somewhere, you'll go after that, because that's important to me to know how you deal with that part.
Yeah, and that's where we get into one of the things that we have, and I'm getting out of my presentation here, and I hope you give me.
But if it's in the presentation, you don't have to talk about it.
But one of the things that we have is every transaction in our system is fully accountable. In the scenario you described, for you to bring down that item you want to edit in the first place, you had to have had registered our software. You have to have had a framework. We know who you are. Every device you have, we know that. We don't know it in the onerous sense that maybe somebody who had more serious concerns about constraining behavior. But we know for you to have downloaded our thing, whether you paid for it or not, you didn't have to, but you basically had to give us some information about who you are, and we know about your devices, because we have on your machine, cycling through, doing this to make our system efficient, we're out there collecting the information on your environment. Because at the end of the day, when the digital access is requested, we need to know whether the answer is yes or no, we need to know right away. So what's
I'm
happening?
gonna get a little geeky too, just like what you're saying, so if I put endpoint protection, and if I've got endpoint protection sitting there, which is monitoring every asset, I don't know if you've integrated with any of those classification systems or not, because they're also gonna control rights as to who has access, I implemented that too. Especially when engineers wanna do coding and they have privilege access versus admin access, because they're always downloading shit.
Can I stop you right there?
So, sorry, we're getting a little geeky.
No, that's-
But I
No,
said,
please keep going.
but part of what, my mind went to DRM, and went to DLP, and went to endpoint protection. So I think part of this is positioning, how you're positioning your product. It's an interesting, you have to claim some space, but assets are assets, and we're trying to, because in the end, the bad guys want to get assets.
Yeah, they want to get assets.
They're all trying to get that data. Where is that data housed, whether it's a central honeypot, or sitting on a shared drive, or sitting on the cloud, or wherever it is, they're gonna find maneuvering ways, right? So if I may finish, and so part of what we did was we implemented our own rules and a bit of machine learning on the pattern recognitions, really getting down to the stripping of the header as who's coming in, what are they looking at, and if any person went to anything was virtualized, right, and we segmented everything, so if somebody's trying to jump a segmentation, block. Don't even get to go there too. We don't even have rights or zero trust architecture with boundaries. So we're gonna probably go
But
into this,
it
let's
also
understand how you do
probably-
that, how do you compare to
Yeah.
all of that?
And we're gonna get into that, but there's something, I need you to give me.
Yeah, please.
Information about something, only because everything that you're telling me, everything you're describing, are constraints placed by somebody other than the owner of that IP. And that's the whole,
Corporation, consumer, so if I own my IP, but in a corporation, I give up all rights when I'm an employee. Even though I could be a founder of the freaking company, own 99% of it, I have given up all my rights to that company.
let me ask you a question, let's put it.
Until I take a vote as a board and say, shit, I want all of it.
That's fine, you're Sony, and you're,
I looked at myself.
you're Sony, and you're selling digital copies, and you have vendors, okay? And those vendors have a little bit of a different idea of the worldview than you do. Maybe you don't want to sell in China, maybe they do.
No, I'm not disagreeing, I'm
No.
wondering where you're positioning the product, consumer or corporate, because you went into corporate space initially.